Right, guys, let's begin where we left off, where we were adding and subtracting fractions. Now, this particular example was chosen because there is a complicated denominator. Now, as soon as we have a complicated denominator, we always want to build our lowest common denominator. And in order to build our lowest common denominator, we should always factorize all denominators first. So as soon as I see this particular example, I realize that x minus 3 is as factorized as it could be, and x plus 2 is as factorized as it could be, but x squared minus x minus 6 could definitely be factorized. So I'm going to factorize that denominator before I build my lowest common denominator. Now, not always, but sometimes you can pick up hints about what that factorization should be. I always check myself, but as soon as I see a question like this, I see x minus 3 and I see x plus 2, and I'm factorizing to get an example. So part of me thinks that it would make complete sense if one of them was x minus 3 and one of them was x plus 2, because then my lowest common denominator would be quite simple. Now that's a bit of a guess, so I can try it and see if it works. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to factorizing from scratch. Now let us check if this does work. X squared, yes, plus 2x minus 3x would give me my minus x, and minus 3 times positive 2 would indeed give me minus 6. So in this case, it happened to work. Now, I'm afraid it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes it factorizes to two other things, and your lowest common denominator is quite complicated. So we can't always assume that. But if we check, we can always find out whether our guess was right. Now, this means our lowest common denominator is relatively simple. It's x minus 3, x plus 2, because then that denominator is in the denominator, that factors in the denominator, and that factors in the denominator. So now I just have to realize that I need to figure out what each denominator would need to get to that denominator. Now this denominator is perfectly acceptable, so nothing happens to 3x squared. X minus 3, that would need to be multiplied by x plus 2, so that it would look like the lowest common denominator, which means if I'm going to create an equivalent fraction, I need to multiply the top by exactly that same factor, because you do not want to change the meaning of your fraction. And in my last one, x plus 2 would need to be multiplied by x minus 3 to look like the lowest common denominator. And what you do to the bottom of a fraction, you do to the top. So I have minus 3x and x minus 3. Now, as soon as you're at this point, you've actually done all the hard work. All's left for us to do now is multiply out, collect up like terms, and to check if I can simplify. So 3x squared, distribution minus 3x, minus 6, minus 3x squared, and plus 9x, all divided by x minus 3 and x plus 2. Notice I don't multiply at the bottom, and I'll show you why I don't in a second. So 3x squared take away 3x squared, those are like terms and they cancel. Minus 3x plus 9x is 6x, so I get 6x minus 6 over x minus 3x plus 2. Now, there is always a possibility that this answer could simplify. The only reason I can't simplify it by looking at it right now is that it's not one term over one term. If I factorize this top, it would be one term over one term. So let's try. Highest common factor is 6, so x minus 1 over x minus 3, x minus 2. Now, the reason why I never multiply out my denominator is multiplying out this doesn't make it any simpler. So you won't get any marks for it. It's not a necessary step. And also, I don't multiply it out because at this point here, if there was a bracket on the top and an identical bracket on the bottom, I could now cancel. So I might be able to simplify more. So that's why I never multiply out this, because then I wouldn't have one term over one term to help me with my cancelling. Now, in this particular example, there isn't a common bracket on the top and the bottom, so no cancelling can happen. Now, I always go to this step here because I always like to check whether maybe I can cancel. But in reality, either of these answers would be acceptable because one is no simpler than the other. As I say, I always factorize. just to check in case. Right, here's exercise 2, which is on addition and subtraction. Do yourself a favor, stop the video and write down these questions and then try them. Just remember with addition and subtraction that we always are aiming for a lowest common denominator. But in order to build our lowest common denominator, it's always helpful to factorize all denominators first. And then just remember that whatever you do to the bottom of a fraction, you have to do to the top of a fraction. Otherwise, you are changing the meaning of the fraction. So stop the video now, write these down, and try them out. Good luck.